Good evening. Everybody hear me okay? Oh yeah, we can hear you really good, really good. Loud and clear, excellent. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Laura Byrie, and I'm your Deputy City Manager here for the City of West Covina. Thank you so much for coming to tonight's training. This is on how to survive an active shooter, and it's for our community members, such as yourselves. Now tonight we did agendize the training as a formal City Council meeting in anticipation that we may have 3 council members here present tonight. At this point in time, we're calling the meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. and we'll do a brief roll call to find out how many council members we have here. I believe we have 1. So that would be your Mayor, Lloyd Johnson. Should we have 2 more council members show up this evening for the training, we will be announcing that as a quorum, and that just simply means that we do have 3 of them here for tonight's training. We will continue with the training though, regardless, if there are 3 or fewer of them here tonight. I want to thank you guys all for taking the time out of your schedules to come to tonight's training. We are recording this training this evening, and you will later be able to view it on YouTube, on the city's YouTube channel, and that's at westcovina.org/live. If you have anyone that was not able to attend tonight, they can view tonight's training again at westcovina.org/live. Tonight's training is not being live broadcast, as at this point in time, at 7 o'clock, we are simultaneously having a planning commission meeting, which will override the live broadcast should we were to try to live broadcast tonight from here as well. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce your keynote speaker from our West Covina Police Department. It is Sergeant Jeff Munn. I personally have taken this training from him, and I will tell you, you are in for a real treat. He is very educated in this matter. He is a subject matter expert for our organization, and I think you're going to find some very helpful tips. So without further ado, Sergeant Jeff Munn.
Good evening. A little background on myself. I've been working for the City of West Covina for about 21 years. I've been teaching active shooter for a little over a decade, so it's gone through a lot of changes. Tactics are different, how we respond. What we teach is different. So tonight, what I want to teach and what I want to talk about is, what do you do? I'm trained, all my guys are trained, but what do you do? If you're in a restaurant, or you're at your place of work, or your children are at school, what do? We teach this class to all of the schools in our district. Every elementary school all the way through high school has been taught. All of the educators have been taught. So it's important not only for them to know, but what do you do? How many of you have been formally trained in how to respond to an active shooter? Couple, right? Well, that's why I'm here. What I'm going to teach you today is what we would like you to do. If somebody comes in trying to hurt you, this is the best course of action for you. It's really simple. There's 3 things that I want you to do, and we're going to talk about it. I'm going to play you a video, but it's really simple. There's 3 things I want you to do: run, hide, or fight. When we talk about that, run just means get out of there. Get yourself out of the equation. If you're not in that situation any longer, you're not capable of being a victim. Does that make sense? If you can't leave, hide. Put yourself in a place where you can't be seen. Okay? Lastly, fight if you have to. If somebody's trying to hurt you, you have a right to defend yourself. Fight and defend yourself and your family. Fair enough? Okay? So when we go through this is about teaching you what to do. And it's really simple. Okay? Active shooter, when I first started teaching this class, it was about a 2-hour class. It was a 2-hour class because I had to spend the first hour convincing people it was a problem. Do I have to convince anybody in here it's a problem? All you have to do is turn on the news. All you have to do is listen to the radio. Unfortunately, in this country right now, it's kind of an epidemic. We're seeing this constantly. All the time, this is happening. So that's why we're offering this training, is because it's fair for everybody to know what to do. Right? Because it is happening more frequently. It is happening all the time. So it's fair for everybody to know, what's my best course of action here? right? So now if an active shooter happened, wherever it may be, let's say one came in here right now, are people going to get hurt? Yes, of course, they're going to get hurt. But what I'm training you is how to mitigate the amount of people that get hurt and how to get yourself to safety as quickly as possible. Does that make sense to everybody? So what we're going to do initially is we're going to show a video, and this is called Run, Hide, Fight. Before we show this video, there are some kids in here, and there are some. This has a little bit of graphic content to it, right? This is about people getting injured. So if you feel like you need to get up or take your children out of here, by all means, right? Whatever you're comfortable with, but it is important. Okay, so we'll show you this video. So when we're talking about active shooter, obviously in this, they're in a business, right? Open for business. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you're in a restaurant. It doesn't matter if you're in a mall. It doesn't matter if you're at a school, your place of work. It doesn't matter where you are. The reaction is the same. If someone is there to hurt you, understand these folks don't think the way the rest of us do. Their only goal is to hurt as many people as they possibly can. So your best course of action will always be to get out if you can. Okay? Get out if you can. If you're no longer there, again, like I said before, then you're not a victim. You can't be a victim if you're not there. So get out. If you can take people with you, take people with you. Okay? This is going to be the scariest day of all of our lives, I assure you, right? So people are going to be scared. They're going to freeze up. If you can encourage people to go with you, encourage them to go, but don't wait for them. Okay? Really important, don't wait. The longer you're there, excuse me for just a second.
Okay, so just to remind everyone, since this is an official city council meeting, we have reached a quorum. You do have 3 council members present. Joining Mayor Lloyd Johnson, you also have Councilmember Corey Warshaw in the back, and Councilmember James Toma. Please continue, thank you.
So remember, in an active shooter, it doesn't matter. Get out of the equation. Right? If you can take people with you, yes, but don't wait. The longer you wait, the more danger you're in. Does that make sense to everybody? So if you can get yourself out, get yourself out. Or you choose to go, go. However, if you choose to stay, that's okay too. One of the difficult things about talking about active shooter is I can't tell you who this individual is. I can't tell you what direction they're coming from. I can't tell you what they're armed with. All I can tell you is that they're here to do harm to you and your family. So if you can get out, get out. If you choose to stay, that's fine, stay. But what I want you to do is hide yourself as best you can. If you can put yourself into a locked room, lock the door. But I don't want you just to lock the door, I want you to push everything in that room against that door and barricade yourself in there so that this individual can't get to you and your family. Remember, these individuals, as soon as that person gets seen with a gun or a bullet goes off, what happens? Calling 911, right? The police are on their way. Somebody's going to intervene. So they have a very limited amount of time to get this job done. Okay? So if you barricade yourself and you make it incredibly difficult for this individual to get to you, are they going to spend a lot of time on that barricaded locked door? Probably not. Probably not. So they're likely to move on, right? In the video it talks about turning the lights out and silence your cell phone. If I'm a bad guy and I'm looking for victims and I hear cell phones go off, what does that mean? What's on the other end of that cell phone? A victim, right? Just turn your cell phones off, be quiet. lock the door and barricade yourself in there, and then wait for us to get there and wait for us to come help you. Okay? Don't open the door for anybody except the police. And I assure you, you'll know it's us. Right? And then lastly, if you're in that room, or you encounter this individual right in front of you, it's time to fight. Okay? It's time to fight, because now, I assure you, your life depends on it. Okay? If you're barricaded in a room and that individual makes it into that room, they're not there to have a conversation with you. Right? They're going there to hurt you. They're going there to kill you. So, this is the time to fight. And I don't care what you fight with. Grab a chair. Grab a fire extinguisher. I don't care what you do at that point. It's time to fight for you and your family's life. Does that make sense to everybody? Pretty shocking that a police officer is telling you, I don't care what you do. Right? Defend yourself. I don't care what you hit him with. I want you to hit him with it until he stops. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay? So the first thing I want you to do is what? Run. Get out. Remove yourself from the equation so you can't be a victim. Okay? Secondly, what do I want you to do? Hide. Okay, but not only hide, I want you to barricade yourself. I want you to make it incredibly difficult for this individual to get to you and harm you. Okay? And lastly, fight. And be ready to fight for your life, because this truly is the time you have to fight for your life. Again, these individuals aren't here to do anything other than to hurt you. Okay? Run, hide, and fight. Do they go in that order necessarily? No. Okay? We've had a lot of active shooter incidents that have ended because a student on the campus decided, nope, I'm going to intervene, I'm going to tackle this guy, or a coach, or a citizen, or whoever. If you're there and you can do something and you choose to do it, go for it. Right? Because you're protecting your own life and a lot of other lives at the same time. So if you encounter this individual right away, fight. Right? You don't have time to run and you don't have time to hide. So guess where we're at? Fight. Does that make sense to everybody? So it's really simple what I'm asking you to do. 3 things. Really easy to remember. Run, hide, and fight. That's it. Okay? Now if you're going to run, what I want you to do, before you take off, take a look at what's going on around you. Right? Don't just run out of the room. Right? Listen. Hear what's going on. Have a plan. You know, they talk about having a plan in here. Think about what you're going to do. Have a plan. Okay? If I'm in this room, where can I go? Okay, I'm going that way. Right? How many people do you see nowadays walking around like this? Right? We all do it. We all get stuck. I have a phone too. We all do it, right? But be aware of what's going on around you. Listen to what's going on around you. If you start hearing people react and screaming and things like that, it's really hard to hear that when you got earbuds in, right? But be aware. I'm not asking you to be paranoid. Just be aware of what's going on around you so that you have the opportunity to react. Fair enough? Okay? So have a plan. Think about what you're going to do and do it. Commit to your actions. It doesn't matter. Commit to running. Commit to hiding. But if you're going to hide, do it well. If you're going to fight, just like they said, commit to your actions and do it. Right? Very difficult for people to do. Right? Commit to your actions and do it because your life truly depends on it. Pretty simple. Right? Any questions? Comments? Concerns?
And we do have a microphone that we're going to ask that you utilize when you're asking your questions, just because we're recording this for a later broadcast up to YouTube. So thank you so much for helping us out with that. And when you do grab the microphone, please speak as clearly as possible into the microphone. I want to remind everyone, tonight it's kind of ironic. I don't know if ironic is the right word, but it is interesting that tonight is actually the 2-year anniversary of the active shooter that occurred at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando that took the lives of 49 individuals. That happened on June 12th. 2016, just 2 years ago today. And until a year later in Las Vegas, that was the most deadliest single shooter, active shooter incident, until the Las Vegas incident occurred back in October of last year. So the topic is very relevant. And I do appreciate Sergeant Munn for taking the time to give you that information. So take this time, ask a question. No question is too silly, and we'll go ahead and start over here.
Do you have any thoughts what could be done to mitigate what is happening with the guns and so forth? Any thought at all?
That's a very difficult question because you have a lot of things that play into this factor. You have mental health issues, you have weapons issues, you have all those things. So it's very difficult to say because each one of these individuals is different and has a different motivation, right? I don't know what's going through these folks' head, but I know a lot of them have mental health issues. So I think dealing with the mental health side, that's probably our best bet as far as that goes.
That's a start, right? That's a
Start, absolutely, it's a start, sure.
What different scenarios would you give for like different places, like a mall or like a restaurant? Like the things you had mentioned, like what different scenarios would you do? Because I know not all restaurants are the same, but like in that situation, like for instance in this room, it's very open and there's very few of us. So if someone were to come in, like what would be the best tactic? Like,
Well, let's say someone comes in, and depending on where you are, if someone comes in that back door, right, where should you go? Right there. You have exits right here. You can go. If you're in the back and that guy's right behind you, what do? Fight, right? Because if you get up and run, you don't have the opportunity to go anywhere, right? Is there any place to hide right now? No. So we're automatically jumping. You guys are in the front. You can run. Other people, the hard part about coming up with scenarios is it's a decision that you have to make. I can't make that decision for you because if you run, that's the right decision at the time. If you hide, that's the right decision at the time. You talk about restaurants. Think about the restaurants that you eat in. Do they have a kitchen? Do they have back doors that lead out of the kitchen? Yeah. When you're in a mall, do most of those malls have back doors, and do they have areas that you can run out into parking lots? Yeah. And so when you're walking through the mall or you're in a restaurant, be looking around, right? Hey, all right, so the kitchen's back there. It takes 1 second for you to figure out, oh, the kitchen's back there. So if something bad happens, well, the kitchen's back there, I can run that way. But it's hard to give you specific scenarios because I don't know who this individual is and I don't know where they're coming from and I don't know what they're doing, so it's very hard. But if you keep in mind that run, hide, fight, those are the rules that you can follow, right? So if this individual's right here, can you run? Probably not, right? Too close. Right? If this individual is farther away, can you run? Sure. But that's a decision that you have to make at the time. And none of those decisions are wrong.
What do you think as far as being in law enforcement, of like myself, arming myself in case of an incident should happen?
Well, there's legal issues as far as you arming yourself, right? In order for you as a private citizen to arm yourself, you have to have a CCW and you have to go through all of those things, right? That's not for me to decide. You know, our policy here is that we defer that to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, right? So that is something that you're going to go through to get a CCW or do that stuff. And that's really a personal decision, right? Do you feel comfortable carrying a gun? Are you trained well enough to carry a gun? Right? There's a lot of things that go into somebody carrying a gun. It's not just having a gun. You got to be able to use it. And you have to be trained well to use it, right? Because any of us, police officer or citizen, if you fire that gun, you're responsible for everything that happens on the other side of it. So there's a lot of issues other than just having a gun. Does that make sense?
Yes, my thinking is because if I can save lives, that's what I'm going to do. I'm looking into that.
Sure.
To be armed. And sadly, my place that we're most vulnerable is in the house of worship. You know, in a church, it's just one big square room just like this is.
Sure.
Someone comes in from the back and, you know, he's going to kill a lot of people. And if there's hundreds in there, a lot of people are going to die. So my thinking is, go through the legal system, get a weapon. I don't even own a weapon right now. get a weapon, go through the training,
Sure.
taught, and just hope and pray I never have to be put in that situation. But if I am, hopefully I'll get him before he gets me.
Sure. You know, and one of the things in your congregation, what you should do is talk to your congregation, because in most congregations that I've taught and spoke at, they have a security detail. They have a lot of off-duty law enforcement people that can carry guns. And typically they're seated throughout the congregation and they have plans set up in order to do this. So that would be something that I would talk to my congregation about and say, hey, do we have this? Is this something that I can help with? Do I have, you know, all those things. So there are things that you can do in your church, especially, or in your place of business, to come up with those ideas and see if they actually have those systems in place already.
Hello. My thing is from the military that stuck with me most of my life is awareness. As I walk in here, I already seen the exit doors. I know this door here goes out and it's basically fenced off. So, I mean, anywhere you go, I have a knack now to just pay attention where exit doors are, things like that. So if we kind of work with ourselves on, you know, being aware no matter where you go, even on the airplane, where to exit, you know. So when it's time to make a move, you're going to make the right move.
Sure.
So being, you know, aware, teaching your kids to be aware, that's one of the biggest problems that I see. Also with these headphones and looking down at the phone, they don't want to stop at the stop sign. They just walk right through. They don't know if the car chase is going. Awareness is a problem right now with people not just paying attention. And that's what gets a lot of people killed. So that's why everybody should individually work with their kids, family, on just being aware and more aware.
Sure. Being aware just in an active shooter incident, yes, that obviously will help you understand what's going on, but you should be aware all the time, right? Exactly what he said. Yes, sir. Mayor.
Yes, sir. What I was saying, the gentleman was talking about having a gun. You know, I own the business. Even if I didn't have a CCW, I would have a registered gun.
Sure.
I mean, it's registered to business, so I actually own it legally, but I'm not carrying it out on the street. Now, my question to you now, when they come in and I use it, because I'm trained with it, then, so what are the ramifications if I say I shot?
In your place of business.
The gun is registered, legally registered.
If the gun's legally registered and it's in your place of business and you defend yourself with it, and if somebody comes into your business and is an active shooter and you legally have that in your business, yes, you are legally authorized to defend yourself. Absolutely. The CCW is for carrying it out on the street, in public places, things like that. So in a business, yes, sir.
So to piggyback on what the mayor said, if the active shooter had entered the business but is like in the parking lot or immediately in front, would he have the right to defend himself then, or does he have to actually wait till the guy goes inside?
You're getting in a gray area here. Now, obviously, if someone's coming into your business with a gun in their hand, you have a right to defend yourself, sure. You can say, look, this guy's coming in right now, but, you know, the guy standing in the parking lot doesn't necessarily mean, just if a guy's standing in the parking lot with a gun, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the active shooter. No, we don't know what he's going to do. I'm not saying wait till this guy comes in and engages you, but yes, you got to be very, very careful about dealing with people outside of your business now, because we have no idea what that individual's doing, right? Make sense?
In defense of others, though, is that legal defense to fire the firearm if you're defending someone else, maybe in the parking lot, like a woman that's being shot at or something?
This is a very difficult question, because without being there and seeing what's going on in that situation, it's very difficult. Do you have a right to defend yourself and others? Yes, of course you do, right? Everybody, every citizen does, but each scenario is completely different, right? So it's very hard to answer those questions, because, you know, little things make a big difference in those situations, right? So yes, do you have a right to defend yourself? Do you have a right to defend yourself and others? Yes, you do, as a citizen. Do you have a right to use a firearm to do that? It's really going to depend on the situation, right? Very difficult for me to answer that question. Does that make sense? Yeah. You know, one of the things that, before we take this next question, one of the things that is fair for you guys to know how law enforcement is going to respond, okay? Initially when Columbine happened, that was kind of the original active shooter in this country. When Columbine happened, we as police officers had the tactic that if somebody was inside and they were doing harm and they had guns, we were going to surround the place, make sure he didn't get out, and wait for SWAT or the guys with all the good toys and all that stuff, right? Well, what we learned from that is, well, while we're waiting, everybody inside's getting hurt. We can't do that. So we changed our tactics. And what we did then is we decided, you know what? No, it's best for us. Doesn't matter. You're going to go. And we started forming groups. And we would wait for a few people to get there, so we'd go in and we'd do that. After Sandy Hook, that changed again. So now we're going to respond. You're going to see guys going in by themselves. As soon as you get there, you're going to go. You're going to go in there and you are going to stop that threat, period. That's our job. Okay? Now, one of the things that, and I get this question a lot, one of these things is, if there are injured people in this situation, are you going to stop and help them? And the answer is no. Okay? And it's a very, very difficult thing to do, to pass somebody who's injured. Okay? But the reason we're not going to do that is because if I stop and help this injured person, but that individual is still hurting people, I'm not doing anyone any good. Right? So my job and law enforcement's job is to stop that threat. We're going to go, we're going to stop that threat. While we're dealing with that threat, we're going to have teams that come in and rescue those injured individuals. Does that make sense? So it's fair for you guys to know how we're going to respond. Right? Just because we pass an injured individual doesn't mean that we're going to leave this person, no. As we're passing them by, we're saying we have an injured person right here. Then we have other teams behind us to come and grab them. Does that make sense? Okay. Questions?
Regarding a CCW, I thought it was done through the city.
No, our chief has elected to transfer that to the sheriff of Los Angeles County.
That's still valid? I know that you guys were working on that about 3-4 years ago.
No, the policy right now is to go through the sheriff's department. So if you want to get a CCW, you go through the sheriff's department.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Has there been any change in the attitude of law enforcement with regard to people who seem to be or are very potentially mentally ill, and how they're kept track of in terms of the various gun sellers and so on?
Sure. There's been a change as far as it's very difficult to keep track of those individuals, right? I mean, you have people that have mental issues. Do they have guns? Those things, very difficult to track, very difficult to enforce, right? I mean, just because I'm having an issue, I have guns registered to me, is it okay for the government to come and take those guns? Maybe, maybe not. That's not for me to decide. So the attitude is, yes, it's important. We need to make sure that if we address an individual that has mental health issues, can we take those guns? Yes, we can, and we do all the time, right? And we take them until they can prove that they're good, and then they have to go through the state to get those guns back. Do we do that? Yes, sir, we do that all the time. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Maybe this is time for a comment. Unfortunately, I guess this is a pretty important topic. I also could suggest maybe a future meeting. Someday the San Andreas Fault is going to break, and sometime in the next 20 years, maybe we could have a community meeting on a threat like that. And I'm hoping this is only a one in a million chance of happening in West Virginia.
Sure.
But, you have to be prepared. But also identity theft is pretty important too. And maybe we should do a future program on those things.
Sure.
That's all. That's all.
Kind of getting back to the subject. Okay, I'm wondering how people that are caught in these situations 8-year-old that's caught in this situation. Going to respond when the police come to help them. I noticed when some of the school children, they have their hands up, so to speak, and things along that line. If they're at a mall, what have you, what is the police asking for us to, how we are should behave when they get onto the scene?
Sure, very good question. If you were in a situation that has an active shooter and law enforcement's arriving, how do we want you to respond? I want you to respond by doing exactly what you're told, right? If they tell you to run that way, right? If they tell you to put your hands up, right? Don't do anything, affirmative movements, things like that. Just go out and do what you're told. They're there to help you. They're there to make this threat go away. So it's very, very difficult when you have a bunch of people coming out at you, right? And you're trying to get intelligence, and you're trying to figure out who's a good guy, who's not, right? And so what we do is just do what you're told. That's all we ask. It doesn't matter, right? Put your hands up. Okay, put your hands up. No problem. And we'll get you where we need to get you to. Does that make sense? All right. So pretty simple, yeah. Any other questions?
My stepdaughter was killed at Roseburg.
I'm sorry.
The sheriff went over what happened with the family afterwards. And one of the things he told us is the first responder there did not know the layout of the college. Luckily, there were 2 detectives that came in shortly after him that did know the layout of the college. My question is, do all of our police officers know intimately the layouts of all of our buildings?
All of our buildings?
Public buildings.
Yeah, all of our public buildings, it's impossible for the officers to know every square inch of those public buildings. I will tell you this, we train regularly at the mall, at our schools, at places that we think that it's a potential threat, right? Can I go into every business and have every one of my officers go in there? It's not feasible to do that. But for our main ones, for instance, I will tell you our police department was training at West Covina High School today because it's important, right? And so we know the layout of that, yes. One of the things that we do is work together with the fire department, and one of the benefits of working together with the fire department is they have maps. They do inspections of all these buildings. So when I have those guys with me, and we're going to do this, well, they have an intimate knowledge of most of these buildings, right? So our law enforcement, yes, they have intimate knowledge of a lot of your major buildings in the city, yes. But we also have maps, and we also have all those other things that help us respond to these situations. So yes, we do.
Has it ever been determined what is motivating these people, for example, one in Las Vegas who killed and injured so many people? Are we ever coming to conclusions as to what's going on? What motivated them to take these lives?
You know, it's very difficult when you look at the gentleman in Las Vegas. Gentleman, I use that term very loosely, by the way. But he's gone. You know, we can't ask him. We can't figure out exactly. He was very secretive about what he did and why he did it, so we don't know the motivation, right? We know that individual doesn't think like the rest of us, right? So do I know what motivated him to kill so many people? No, we don't know. You know, a lot of these shooters have, when you look especially at the younger ones, it's an issue of control. They don't have a lot of control in their lives, and so what are they doing? If I'm one of those kids and I go onto campus, who's in charge? Right? I'm in charge for that short time, that until something, either I choose to take my own life, or an officer stops me, or a citizen stops me, or whatever. But yeah, it's very, very difficult to understand the mental health issues that come with this, right? And probably for every one of them, it's going to be a little different, you know? So it's very difficult to answer that question, sir.
I like the video that they had there, and I like the way they put points on there as far as that goes. And I really, I wish they'd had a handout of just those points in there.
Sure.
I can't drive fast enough.
Well, actually, you can go online and watch that video. That's just on YouTube.
Because I think that would really be a really neat thing to have on a handout to people, or even to the kids or in school,
Sure.
or whatever you're doing, any kind of training.
Sure.
Because that's something they can take home with them and then look at it, study it, and try to remember. And like the awareness things, I think the awareness was really important. Are we doing, you are now teaching some of these schools then too? Or like you said, the high school students?
Elementary through high school, colleges, churches, businesses. Yeah, anybody who wants this training, we're going to give it to them.
I think this is just as important as all the earthquake trainings we have and everything else, because we just added on to the training. So thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Well, again, I want to thank you for your time. This is important. This, I will tell you as a law enforcement officer, this is the most important thing I do, right? Because this gives me an opportunity to teach you guys what to do, right? So this is very important for me. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attentiveness.
All right, let's give a round of applause to our keynote speaker today. Thank you so much to Sergeant Jeff Munn of the West Covina Police Department. We do appreciate all of your insight on this very serious topic. For those of you that did come in late, we did show a video at the beginning of tonight's presentation and training. If you simply go on the internet and Google run, hide, fight, it is the very first entry to come up. Run, hide, fight. You can also find it on YouTube. Run, hide, fight. Those are the key themes that you learned today in the training, and it's also the name of the video that you can watch online. The Department of Homeland Security also has handouts that you can download, and it's all of the theme of run, hide, fight. So what were those three things? Run, hide, and fight. We hope that you never have to use the training that you got today, but we do appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules to come to tonight's training. This training was recorded as we described, so if there is someone you know that you think should watch this training, please encourage them to go to our YouTube channel. It will be up later this week, and that can be found at westcovina.org/live. Thank you so much on behalf of the City of West Covina City Council. Thank you for coming, and have a great rest of your week.